if I ask you just about what's in the Patriot News article, can we go on the record?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Let's give that a shot. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So all right. So we're on the record. Okay. Let me just make sure I get this. Let's go through the article. The first question I had: the former foster child. He wasn't a Sandusky foster child, was he?
No.
He was not a former. Okay. He was not a Sandusky. Okay. All right. All right. And let's see here. He had been sexually abused by Sandusky in a shower room on campus. Do you know which room that was, or?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me which one that was?
No, I can't get into that kind of detail because there's still potentially ongoing criminal cases.
Okay.
And while I do believe in the public right to know, and that it's very important, I also think it's important to vindicate the public interest and to protect potential cases or claims that the Attorney General may still be considering. So it's not that I want to keep anything from you or the readers. Quite to the contrary. I think there's a real educational message to be learned from what occurred. But on the other hand, while we still have an open file on this, so to speak, I don't think it would be right to do anything that might jeopardize that.
Could you tell me what year that occurred?
Well, I don't have my file in front of me. I'm talking to you remotely. I'm in Philadelphia today. I probably would not want to get into that detail even if I had it, but I do not have it in front of me.
Okay, the reason why that's important is because obviously the case going forward, there's a big controversy, I guess, over whether or not events occurred before or after the McQueary episode. But you don't know if they occurred before or after the McQueary episode.
Well, I do know. I certainly know.
But you don't want to divulge that.
I'd rather not get into it as long as it's an open, ongoing investigation. So supposing the Attorney General will bring a case on that.
Okay.
Let's just put it this way. I'll answer it in this fashion. The time of the occurrence was such that it would suggest that Penn State was in a strong position to have taken protective action.
Okay, so you think it was? So you're implying it was after 2001. Okay.
That's your statement, not mine.
I understand. I get it.
I'm not trying to be coy with you. I'm not trying to be coy with you. And I love the role of the press. I think it's very important. Really, it's important. There's other institutions that have these kind of problems, and they need to learn from it. Rather, I'm just trying to protect the public interest here.
No, I got it. Okay, next line. The victim received gifts and a trip to a Penn State bowl game from Sandusky. Do you know which bowl game that was?
No, I don't, and I'm not sure that actually was. Without looking at the file, I do not remember if it was a game or a bowl game. That did strike me as perhaps he may have gotten that wrong, and so. But again, that would be something I need to look at the file to tell you exactly.
Do you have any idea
and again, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that given the ongoing nature of these claims.
Okay, so would you know what year the games he went to occurred?
I'm sure we have all of that, and it's supplied to the Attorney General's office. Yes.
But you don't know off the top of your head when that occurred.
I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm sure that's not the kind of thing I'd want to guess at.
Okay.
Sorry, again.
No. I understand. I mean, obviously a bowl game is something that is a little bit more. Able to be documented than something else.
I don't want to try. See, here's where I'm coming from again, John. I don't want to try the Attorney General's case in a public forum. It's not fair to the Attorney General or to the victims, or even to Penn State, by the way.
Okay. Fair enough.
As important as your role is, and you should be asking these questions. They're all legitimate questions. I said that I have to have enough core sense to. I'm less interested in publicity for myself and more interested in the right thing be done for the university and the victims.
Okay, well, that actually gets me to another question I had about this article. He writes, the biggest job during the months of negotiations was keeping the focus on child abuse and away from the issues like disagreements among university trustees and the aftermath of the firing of football coach Joe Paterno. Could you could you just explain what that was about?
That I could talk about, in some detail. Because it's all public. As you know, there were many public statements by the trustees. There were statements where the trustees did or did not disagree among themselves or with others in terms of strategy. The Paterno family, was not happy with the free report, did their own report, attacked the free report. all of these were moving parts that might have impacted the claims of the victims. And it was always my belief, and, I counsel the other plaintiff lawyers to this extent, all of whom I, know very well. I'm a past president of the trial lawyers of Pennsylvania, so, I know all of these people as very close, intimates, and colleagues. And so it was my counsel all along that the focus had to be kept on proving our claims in these negotiations and the Attorney General, rather than by getting caught up in disputes between individuals such as the trustees or Paternos or other people who are going to trial. I'm
just still a little unclear as to how that impacted the negotiations. I mean, you said that
would require me to go into detailed conversations that we had, and again, I don't think it would be productive for me to say this was said or that was said or that argument was used or this argument was used. Except to say that I don't think it takes a lot of imagination to appreciate that if Sandusky's saying this is all baloney and it's not true, and the free report is a pack of lies, that somebody might try to use that against the victims to say maybe all this isn't true. Look at what Sandusky's saying, or look what his hired gun said, or whatever. So I don't think I need to go into great detail to tell you that there are ways in which people would use the different public positions taken in their argument with the plaintiff's lawyers.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Now, somewhat similar to that, then, there's been some talk about just how much scrutiny the victims are getting from Penn State, whether it's enough, whether it's too much. Could you give us a sense as to how it is that you and your client were able to prove something like this to whatever the burden was?
Well, I speak for myself. As Mike Rosen will tell you, and I urge you to give him a call and ask him, what do you think of Cliff Readers? I think he'll be open with you and tell you the truth. It was our position to lay all our cards on the table. The way I like to work with lawyers in general, especially when I have a very strong case like this, we told them almost everything we do. I can't say we told them 100%. You always have some strategic things that you may want to withhold, but we certainly were very, very open. We produced a documentary film in detail showing exactly what occurred to our client, and we thought that was a very graphic way to educate Penn State and their negotiators. We gave them documentation, PowerPoint presentation, and others. We gave them very significant data. Let me tell you when I, as I said, I'm a past president of the trial lawyers. If you look at your resume, you see I do a lot of teaching. When I teach lawyers, and I do it all the time, plaintiff lawyer, defense lawyers, I'm very active in the academic community. I always say to them, when you go into a negotiation, it's like a mini trial. It should be like a trial. Mm-hmm. And a lot of lawyers do not do that. Some do. Many lawyers go in, and I'm not criticizing anybody in particular. For many lawyers, it's the BS session. For us, it was a trial. And we treated our negotiations with Mike Rosen as though it was a trial. And I think he appreciated that, understood where we were coming from, and I think that was very helpful. So that was our approach in general.
Well, what was the nature of the documentation when you mentioned documentation?
I'm not going to get into details yet. I know. I wish I could go into. I'm really not going to go into that.
Well,
but again, that's evidence that is an attorney general sort of. I would then be stepping on their feet. So.
Well, I don't know. That's not really true. I mean, the reality is that you proved your case. Obviously, Penn State decided that this was a legitimate claim and paid you, quote, a substantial amount of money. So I'm just trying to figure out what was that based on. I mean,
I don't blame you for trying to figure that out. You're an excellent reporter. However, there's an open file on the part of the Attorney General's office, and I think it would be irresponsible of me to kind of snatch the case away from them and try my own case in the press.
Okay. How
I work.
I understand, and it's obviously your prerogative.
I tell you, John, I started off my career working in New York City for the Henry Rothblatt, and I was an editor of the books, the Bailey and Rothblatt white-collar crimes book. Mm-hmm. I was an early editor. So I was around people with power and with press relationships. Certainly Bailey in his day and Henry Rothblatt. What I learned from them, both positive and negative, watching them do positive things and negative things, was the importance of being responsible. I also worked for Henry Rothblatt when he defended the men who broke into the Watergate. So I talked to Carl Bernstein directly. And I learned, again, from those experiences, the importance of being responsible.
No, and I appreciate that. And I'm not criticizing you for that, but just for the record, many of the other victims have talked in great detail about the nature of the abuse that they.
That's their prerogative. There's their prerogative. We have a close relationship with all those lawyers. They all know me very well, and we all operate a little differently. That's fine for them. Just
crossing I's and dotting T's, do you know how old your client was when he suffered the abuse?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell me how old he was?
Well, he was a young boy. He was a young preteen.
You can tell me how old?
He was a preteen. Rather not go into those details either. Again, I think I don't want to undermine the Attorney General's case. And I don't have the file in front of me. I would slightly be guessing. I would tell you like 12, but it might have been 9 to 12. And I'm not telling you that simply because I don't have the information firm in front of me.
Okay.
If I were guessing, I would say between 9 and 12. That is a little bit of a guess.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because the age is a little bit off. I mean, it's been, if your client is 22 and, well, it was reported as 22, so he's not 22, he's 23?
It's a lie, he was 23. I think he did that article over time.
Oh, this was an article that was so he must have just turned 23, I guess. I mean, because the article came out Wednesday. So okay, so 22 or 23. So if he was 12 years old, that was 11 years ago. That's well after the McQueary episode, and so that's very significant. That's very significant if, in fact, he was abused on campus in the shower. After the McQueary episode, and so I mean, is your position then that Penn State clearly did not do anything to stop Sandusky after the McQueary episode?
Well, I answered that question already. First of all, let's get back to the age. I don't have the file in front of me, so I that is a guess, and I think it would probably not be a good idea to state that with any positiveness, without my double checking.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
However, to answer your second question, which I answered before, and I'm happy to answer again, is that our position at Penn State was in a position to prevent this from happening, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, well, I appreciate that you feel as if you have an obligation to not say much. I'm a little confused by it since the criminal case has not only been decided, but the appeal has been decided. There is no, for all intents and purposes, criminal case.
Is the Attorney General stated not bringing any other cases?
Well, I mean, there's no need to. He's in prison the rest of his life, and he's.
I've asked him. I'm close with the Attorney General and her deputy, and I've asked them outright, have you closed the file on this? Have you bring in any other cases? And I have not received a definitive answer yet.
Well, that brings me probably to my last question, and I appreciate your time. So why was it then that your client did not testify? I mean, if this was very critical evidence that should have been brought forward at trial, why did that not happen?
Well, again, you're making a strategy decision for the Attorney General. I cannot answer that. I've discussed it with them. And they knew he was available, but I think every Attorney General has a different approach. Some will go with the minimal evidence they need. Some will go with the first evidence they have, even if they develop more evidence later on. It may very well be that this evidence came to them later on when they were already deeply enmeshed in the process. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why Attorney Generals do or do not rely upon particular evidence, and I just can't answer for them.
Okay, but so what you are saying, though, is that the Attorney General's office was aware of your client. They just chose not to call him.
Well, at some point they were aware. I can't tell you exactly when, but they certainly became aware of it. We made them aware. Okay, but
you made them aware, I'm assuming, well after the arrest. Was it before the trial that they were made aware?
They were aware before the trial, yes.
Okay, but it was after the arrest.
Yes. Well, I don't know that for sure because I don't know what they knew on their own. I only know when, my client came to me and was talking to investigators, et cetera, et cetera. I really can't tell you when that was in their process.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty much what all I really wanted to do was just essentially fact check.
You're an excellent reporter. You're an excellent reporter. You've asked all the right questions. But, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record. I know other people look at these differently than I do, but
no, I get it. There's just one thing that we just talked about that I think if I could get some clarification later on, that would be helpful, because you only indicated there was one potential inaccuracy in the Patriot News article, and that was the bowl game issue. Would you be able to confirm or deny that particular?
I'd rather not do that, because again, that potentially jeopardizes the Attorney General. Maybe it helps them. I don't know. But, I just feel uncomfortable when it's still ongoing.
No, wait a minute. Hold on a second. This is a separate deal. It's been reported now, according to you. Now, I'm just simply asking you to either correct the record or confirm the record.
I'll double-check and see if I have that information. But, I think I've said all I'm comfortable saying.
So you don't want to say whether or not he went to a Penn State bowl game or not?
I'm not going to say whether it's a bowl game or not.
Well, because the reality is it got reported, so now it's been reported, so now I'm trying to figure out is that accurate or not. That seems like a pretty open and shut question. I
understand your views, and you understand mine. It's merely a matter of, I'm not going to say it to John Bozier, I'm saying it to you too. I will not do anything that jeopardizes the privacy of these victims or potential.
And I get that. That's more than you're right. I'm just trying to save us both some time here. So you're not going.
What you're doing is legitimate. Again, I respect and admire what you're doing. Really, I do. I'm serious when I say that. I just need to be. I feel personally I need to be very parsimonious with information.
Okay, I get it. But just so to save us time, both, you're not going to confirm or deny this report in the Patriot.
No, I don't think so. I think my client would not be happy with me. Incidentally, I'll add one other thing that you've not asked me about.
Okay.
I think my client is very publicity shy, as are many victims of sexual abuse. I'm sure you've covered these kind of things before. And some of them, like to talk about it. They've had press conferences, and they go on, Dr. Phil, et cetera. And some do not. My client, you need to know, is a very thoughtful, very bright young guy who is publicity shy, and has asked me to be, to say as little as I need to say. So, I'm also responding to his needs.
Right.
Are paramount.
All right. Well, let me ask you one last.
It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I do or don't want to confirm, or don't want misinformation out there. I don't want misinformation out there. My loyalty has to be to the client first.
I get that. Well, let me ask you one last thing here. So, the allegation is either maybe a bowl game, not a bowl game. Can you tell me the nature of the sexual abuse? I mean, were these sex acts? Were these grooming acts? Can you characterize those?
They were sex acts.
Okay. So, and he says that they occurred on a shower on campus, the basement of the Sandusky home, elsewhere, and that he went to a bowl game. What is your reaction to the fact that Dottie Sandusky has said that she has no idea who this person is?
I wouldn't be surprised that she would say that. Her husband's in jail, and she's fighting for his, name and reputation. My reaction is that she's entitled to say whatever she wants. It doesn't mean anything to me.
So you believe that Dottie Sandusky is lying?
Oh, I don't make those kind of determinations.
Well,
I believe my client. Let's just put it that way.
So Dottie Sandusky would be lying, because obviously then if he went to...
That's your conclusion. Listen, I'm not here to judge Dottie Sandusky. I certainly believe my client is telling the truth. You know that, I got to tell you a quick story. I know you only hear stories, but I've got to tell you a quick war story. So Carl Bernstein comes up to me and I was an assistant to Henry Rothblatt at the State. And I've told the story a million times, so I can tell the story about you too someday. So he comes up to me and he says, is it true that the men are being paid hush money to plead and they're going to plead guilty? And that was the big story. Now, if you read All the President's Men.
Right.
And that was the rumor that was out there. They were going to get hush money. And Henry Rothblatt had already told me privately that he would resign if he found out they were getting hush money to plead guilty. He would refuse to represent them in guilty plea. And so he comes to Carl Bernstein, finds me in the hallway of the courthouse. It was like just the two of us. Is that true or not true? Of course I couldn't tell him that, So he said to me, okay, so if you can't answer, I'll take that as a true. I'll take that meaning it's true. Well, it was true. And I said, I can't answer it. You can't take anything from it. And the long and short of it is Henry Rothblatt refused to plead him guilty because they were receiving money. He found out about that. He just wouldn't represent him because he was an honorable lawyer. So I'm sort of laughing because you're saying, you're sort of, it's the same question. I love it, you know.
Well,
so is she a liar because of what she said? You know, a liar is a pejorative conclusion. Okay, obviously my client is telling the truth. She is not. Call it whatever you want to call it.
So okay, so you're saying you're saying that she's lying, and
I'm not saying anything at all. I'm not here to put
right.
a pejorative title on her.
Well, she has to be lying for your client to be telling the truth. If she's saying that she doesn't know who he is, I mean, if this happened at her house and that that your client went to bowl games or to football games, and that it occurred.
I'm not going to call her names in the press for very obvious reasons. You know,
okay, well, it's important though that we understand. I mean,
you can say whatever you want to say.
Right.
I am not going to call her pejorative names in the press.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it.
All right. So just to review, you can't tell me the age. You can't tell me when it happened. You can't tell me whether it was a bowl game or not.
No. I said,
well,
would not tell you any more than I have.
Right.
Protect the interests of my client. And
right. But you said yourself you don't know within a 3-year period how old he was when this happened.
I don't have that with me.
Well, if you made a videotape, you made a documentary videotape based upon this. So it's obviously taken a lot of your time and effort. You would think you would know exactly how old the kid was when this happened.
You mean by memory? No, I have to look at the file.
Okay.
Okay. You're a reporter. You're going to print something in the newspaper.
Well,
I'm not going to just throw out information irresponsibly. But of course, we made that allegation. What his precise age was. But it's not something I can
okay. But just for the record, you haven't told me what year this event occurred. You haven't told me how old the kid was. You haven't told me exactly where it happened. You haven't told me whether or not there was a bowl game or anything.
I'm not trying to. That's right. I'm not.
So how would you? So if you were a reader who was open-minded about this, how would you interpret that? I mean, isn't it your obligation to provide that kind of information?
I would interpret it saying this is a very responsible lawyer who does not want to try in the press what has already been addressed directly with the Attorney General, the university, and the victim.
Okay, and
he's not a publicity hound. Wait, I would say this guy is obviously not a publicity hound.
Right, well, clearly he doesn't want anyone to know anything about the story.
So. No. The ones who know should know. The ones who have a right to know.
Oh, so who has the right to know?
The Attorney General.
Right, but where do you think? Where's the?
Let me finish. Let me finish. The right to know is on the people. Is on the university's part. Negotiators, the Attorney General, and the victim.
Okay.
There's not a general. Let me finish. There's not a general public right to know of all the details that you are asking me concerning the sexual abuse.
Okay.
Reader in Spokane. I'm not finished. Hang on. I don't mind. You can be as aggressive as you like. I love your aggressiveness, but then you have to let me respond.
Sure.
Okay. So there is not a right to know by a curious reader in Spokane, Washington. Okay. The people who have a right to know, legally, morally, those people know.
Okay, so where's this money coming from then?
Well, I don't know. You'll have to ask those people who know that.
So you don't think the people of the state of Pennsylvania, who are the source of this money, have a right to know whether or not they're paying out the money properly or not?
I don't think they have a right to know from me all the details that you're asking about. I think that they have a right to know that there was sexual abuse. I think most of them have a right to rely upon their elective and appointed officials to do that. And I think that's what they've done. That's why they elect people like Kane or Corbett, the trustees. Those are the people that they have entrusted with this responsibility. I do not think that they have a right to read in a newspaper all the details and all the information given to those people. No.
Where do you? I mean, this is a serious question because is it in the article in the Patriot News? There seemed to be some confusion, and you were more protecting your client about this issue. Where do you think the money is coming from? Is it coming from the insurance company? Is it coming from Penn State? Do you know?
I have ideas, but I don't know precisely, no.
Well, what do you think?
But I don't want to get into speculation.
Well, that seems to be the theme of the conversation.
No, the theme is you're asking me to do irresponsible things that I'm not willing to do. You're asking me to publish in town, and I'm not willing to do any of that.
Well, just for the record.
It's a very nice, very aggressive reporter doing his job, and my saying, listen, responsibility also means knowing what not to do.
So then are you saying that all the other lawyers who did provide all the answers to these questions, the exact same questions, were irresponsible?
I don't know what they said.
We know. Wait, hold on a second.
I'm speaking. Hold on. You asked me a question. I haven't read what all of them have said.
Okay. Well, I can assure you.
I have not seen the detail. Don't assure me. I have not seen the detail that you're suggesting they gave. But I don't judge. I'm not judging them. They want to do. I do not.
All right. Well, that's certainly.
I march by my own drummer, and my drummer is a very responsible one. Everybody has their own approach.
I get it, but just for the record, most of the victims who have come forward, we've known the age, if they knew the date, we knew the date, we knew the place, the exact location, we knew what bowl game they went to, if they went to a bowl game, we knew all these things that you don't want to tell me. So I'm just wondering, are those lawyers irresponsible?
I don't know what they are. They're very nice people. I know them all. Wonderful people, every one of them. I'm not here to cast aspersions on anyone else, even you.
Well, I appreciate that. But
I'm visiting my grandchildren.
Okay.
And they got lunch on the table for me, so I'm going to go have lunch.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate talking to you, and I hope that when you write this story, you will fairly represent my reasons for not wanting to try the case in the public.
Absolutely.
Rather than saying, you can say whatever you want to say. You're the writer. But all I'm saying to you is I know it's unusual to encounter people who are more interested in the public interest than their own. So I just urge you to keep that in mind when you write this. There are good reasons why my client would not want to have all this stuff spread all over the place. So, I think if you can imagine what it would be like for him to have lived through what he's lived through, you might understand why I am reticent to get to those details. That's really what it's all about for me.
Okay.
And I know that's an unusual quality. It's probably something you don't run into a lot. It doesn't make anybody else wrong. It just makes a difference. Okay?
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Bye-bye.